I stood on the top floor of the city's tallest financial building, the evening wind sweeping across my long hair, blowing away the last trace of fetters that had bound me for 22 years. Below the building, the group of people who had tortured me for a lifetime were kneeling on the cold ground, crying and repenting hysterically. My biological parents, who abandoned me for a fake daughter, lost all their assets and reputation, their gray hair messy, begging for my forgiveness with bloodshot eyes. The fake daughter Shinsini, who stole my identity, my family love, and my life, collapsed completely, her glamorous reputation ruined, falling from a noble young lady to a street mouse spurned by everyone. Gu Tingzhou, my former fiancé who betrayed me and cheated with Shinsini, abandoned his century-old wealthy family property, stayed outside my villa every day for 3 years, kneeling and repenting in the cold wind and rain, falling into an endless crematorium with no way out. I won the final victory. I stripped off all their false glory, exposed all their hidden evil deeds to the public, and let them pay 10,000 times the price for every bit of pain they gave me. The whole network was cheering for my counterattack, and the whole city was witnessing their downfall. But when I looked at their desperate and broken faces, I felt no joy, no relief, only endless emptiness. The trauma they left in my childhood was deeply rooted in my bones. No matter how thorough my revenge was, those years of darkness and abuse could never be erased. I was the real biological daughter of the Shin family. Swapped at birth, I was abandoned in a remote rural orphanage for 18 years, suffering from hunger, cold, and endless bullying. When I was picked back to the Shin family at the age of 18, I thought I had found my relatives and my home. What greeted me was endless cold violence, deliberate targeting, and deliberate torture. My parents favored the fake daughter Shinsini, who had been raised by them for 18 years. They thought I was rustic, ignorant, and an eyesore who broke their perfect family. Shinsini pretended to be gentle and kind, secretly framed me, robbed my opportunities, smeared my reputation, and made me the laughingstock of the upper circle. My fiancé Gu Tingzhou, whom I trusted wholeheartedly, was seduced by Shinsini. He betrayed our engagement, publicly humiliated me, and joined the Shin family to push me into the abyss. They thought I was humble, weak, and easy to bully. They thought they could hold my life in their hands forever. They never knew that the abandoned wildflower growing in the dark soil had long been rooted in thorns, waiting for the day of counterattack. Just as the public trial ended and all villains fell into doom, a mysterious, white light wrapped my whole body. The noisy cheers, the villains' wails, the glamorous neon lights all faded away in an instant. When I opened my eyes again, the rough wooden bed and the mottled earthen wall of the rural orphanage came into view. The calendar on the wall was blurred but recognizable. I was 8 years old. I was reborn, returning to the starting point of all my childhood sufferings, the year when the Shin family first found out the truth of the baby swap, but chose to abandon me completely. At this moment, Shinsini was enjoying the doting of my biological parents in the luxurious Shin family villa, living a carefree princess life. While I was struggling in the orphanage, enduring the deliberate isolation and abuse arranged by the Shin family secretly. In my previous life, I was ignorant and weak in my childhood, bearing all the darkness silently. But this time, I carry the memory of 22 years of pain and the experience of final revenge. I will no longer endure silently. I will record every evil deed, accumulate every bit of evidence, let all the perpetrators who hurt me be exposed one by one, and let them accept the most thorough public trial. The future victory is predetermined, and the past suffering will be the sharpest blade in my hand. Objective third-party commentary. This prologue adopts a unique future victory flashback plus time reversal opening, which is completely different from the traditional rebirth beginning of Returning Before Revenge. It first presents the ultimate ending of the female lead's counterattack victory, eliminates the audience's anxiety about the failure of revenge, and then traces back to the source of childhood trauma, laying a strong emotional foundation for the subsequent progressive revenge plot. The story core breaks the simple love revenge routine, focuses more on the redemption of native family trauma and the trial of group evil, and raises the depth of the cool text. The female lead's psychological depiction is delicate and real. She achieves material revenge, but cannot heal spiritual trauma, which makes her character three-dimensional and not a cold revenge machine. The setting of returning to childhood abuse nodes paves the way for the subsequent continuous evidence accumulation plus dense secret exposure plus group villain escalation, plot rhythm, and the suspense and expectation of the full-text public trial are fully established. Chapter 1: Childhood Continuous Abuse, the first hidden evil exposed, female-led narrative. The winter wind blew through the broken window of the orphanage, piercingly cold, piercing my thin cotton-padded clothes and stinging my skin. I was 8 years old this year, thin and small, with sallow skin from long-term malnutrition, completely different from the fair and delicate Shinsini. In my previous life, I thought my miserable childhood was just an ordinary fate. It was not until I grew up and investigated the truth that I knew all my sufferings were premeditated. The Shun family found the baby swap truth when I was 5 years old. They confirmed that I was their biological daughter, but they were reluctant to give up Shinsini, who had been raised for many years. So they chose the cruelest way, abandon me, and secretly instruct the orphanage director to isolate, suppress, and abuse me so that I would never have the chance to return to the Shin family and threaten Shinsini's status. At 8 o'clock in the morning, the orphanage's breakfast was distributed. Other children had hot porridge and steamed buns, but I could only stand aside and watch. The director's wife, Aunt Lee, walked towards me with a cold face, her eyes full of disgust and malice, exactly the same as in my memory. "Shen King, stand aside. You don't deserve to eat today. You dirty wild child. You're not as good as a dog, yet you still want to eat." In my previous life, I would shrink back in fear, hold back my tears, and endure the hunger silently. But now, I stood straight, my eyes calm and cold, without a trace of childish fear. I took out the old broken mobile phone that I had hidden in advance. It was the only item left by a passing volunteer, with a complete recording and video function. I had turned on the hidden video recording function long before breakfast, aiming at Aunt Lee's every move. "Aunt Lee, why can other children eat, but I can't?" I asked in a childish but calm voice, guiding her to say more malicious words. Aunt Lee saw my unyielding attitude, became more angry, and raised her hand to slap me heavily. "How dare you talk back? Your rich parents don't want you. You are a superfluous abandoned child. I tell you, as long as I'm here, you will never have a good day." The slap wind was fierce, but I nimbly dodged it. All her abuse, threat, and physical violence hints were completely recorded by the video. This is the first evidence of childhood abuse I have collected after rebirth. And this is just the tip of the iceberg of their evil deeds. Half a minute later, the first hidden secret burst out in my mind. I remembered a forgotten detail. The reason why Aunt Lee targeted me crazily was not only the Shin family's instruction, but also that she regularly received remittance from the Shin family every month, and the purpose of the money was to let Shin Qing suffer more and never grow up happily. A biological family, paying money to let outsiders abuse their own biological daughter. This secret alone is enough to make people shudder. I saved the video evidence permanently, backed it up in 3 cloud disks through the mobile phone's hidden network, and continued to pretend to be a weak and ignorant child. Aunt Lee thought I was scared and dumb, and left arrogantly, still muttering malicious insults. The other children in the orphanage looked at me with sympathy and indifference. Some of them even took the initiative to follow Aunt Lee's instructions to isolate me. I knew that these indifferent bystanders would also become part of the evil group in the future. The road of evidence accumulation and evil exposure has officially begun. Objective third-party commentary. This chapter opens the core rhythm of continuous abuse plus real-time evidence collection plus dense secret explosion of the whole story. Different from the impulsive counterattack of ordinary rebirth children's essays, the female lead has extremely mature rationality and endurance despite her childhood body. She clearly knows that temporary resistance is meaningless. What she needs is complete and chain-based evidence. She takes the initiative to guide the villain to commit evil, perfectly recording the first abuse evidence, which reflects her precise layout ability far beyond her age. The first explosive secret of biological parents paying for others to abuse their daughter instantly raises the emotional anger point, breaking the ordinary native family favoritism plot and shaping the villain's nature of extreme selfishness and cruelty from the root. The layout of indifferent bystanders also paves the way for the subsequent, more and more people participating in evil plot, making the group villain setting solid and layered. Chapter 2 Second Secret Burst. Bystanders turn into perpetrators. Female-led narrative. 30 seconds after the first secret was exposed, the second dusty, hidden memory suddenly broke into my mind. It was not only the orphanage director's wife who received benefits from the Shin family, but also the head teacher of my orphanage school, Teacher Wang. In order to make me completely inferior and unable to compete with Shin Sini in the future, the Shin family secretly bribed Teacher Wang, asking her to suppress my grades, deprive me of all learning opportunities, and deliberately discredit me in front of teachers and classmates. At noon school time, I walked into the dilapidated classroom, ready to take out my only tattered textbook to study. As soon as I sat down, a few classmates rushed over suddenly, snatched my textbook, tore it into pieces, and threw it on the dirty ground. Shenqing, Teacher Wang said you are a bad child who steals things. We don't want to study with you. You are an abandoned child without parents. You don't deserve to study at all. They stepped on the broken textbook with their shoes, laughing and mocking wantonly. In my previous life, I was wronged and cried, and was instead criticized by Teacher Wang for being unreasonable and making trouble out of nothing. But now, I stood quietly, the corner of my mouth covered with a cold smile. I had already adjusted the hidden recording equipment in my pocket, recording all their insults and bullying word for word. I looked up at the group of children who were misled and instigated, and asked softly, "Who told you I stole things? Who asked you to bully me?" A bold little boy shouted directly, "It's Teacher Wang. She said you are a dirty thief and told us not to play with you, or we will be punished." The second piece of key evidence was obtained successfully. 30 seconds later, the third secret exploded. Teacher Wang not only suppressed my studies, but also secretly took the poverty subsidy that belonged to me for many years and shared the money with the orphanage director. All my living subsidies used to survive were embezzled by the two people in power, which was the fundamental reason why I was hungry and cold all year round in my childhood. More and more people are involved in the evil deeds, from the Shin family's parents behind the scenes, to the orphanage director's wife who committed violence, and then to the teacher who abused her power and embezzled subsidies, and the classmates who followed the trend to bully others. The scope of the villain group is constantly expanding, and the degree of evil is constantly escalating. I bent down silently, picked up the broken textbook pieces one by one, and put them in my pocket properly. These are physical evidence of school bullying and power abuse. When Teacher Wang walked into the classroom with a serious face and saw me, she immediately put on a disgusted expression and targeted me publicly. "Shenqing, stand up. I heard you made trouble and quarreled with your classmates again. You are really stubborn and unteachable. From today on, you are not allowed to take the exam, and you are not allowed to participate in any school activities." Her every word was cold and harsh, completely inconsistent with the teacher's duty. I looked straight at her, my eyes clear and cold, letting all her words be recorded in the equipment. The audience's anger began to ferment. A biological family abandons her child, bribes outsiders to abuse her, and even suppresses her study and growth. This kind of cold-blooded selfishness is far more hateful than ordinary family favoritism. I know that this is just the beginning. More hidden sins are waiting for me to dig out one by one. Objective third-party commentary. This chapter strictly implements the core rhythm of one new secret every dozens of seconds, with extremely compact plot progression and no redundant padding. The villain group successfully expands from a single family to school and orphanage dual scenes, realizing the escalation of evil forces. The three consecutive explosive secrets form a layered emotional impact. Parental abandonment is sad, paid abuse is chilling, and embezzlement of children's survival subsidies is heinous. The audience's anger rises linearly with the exposure of the plot, which perfectly meets the emotional rhythm requirements of high-quality cool texts. The female lead's layout is more mature. She not only collects electronic audio and video evidence, but also retains physical broken textbook evidence, forming a complete chain of old and new evidence, laying a solid foundation for the final public trial's irrefutable logic. Chapter 3, Continuous Secret Explosion. Fake Daughters' Hidden Sins Exposed. Female-led narrative. Time flows by second, and new hidden secrets burst out continuously in my memory, each one more cruel than the last. 30 seconds after exposing the teacher's embezzlement, the fourth secret came. Shinsini, who was only 8 years old at this time, already knew the truth of the baby swap. She knew that I was the real biological daughter of the Shin family, and she was just an adopted fake daughter. But she took the initiative to please my parents, took the initiative to slander me in front of them, and took the initiative to ask them to suppress me forever so that she could firmly hold on to my identity and glory. A child of 8 years old, with such a deep scheming and cruel mind, far beyond ordinary people's imagination. Another 30 seconds, the fifth secret exploded. My biological mother had visited the orphanage secretly when I was 6 years old. She saw my thin and miserable appearance with her own eyes, but she turned around and left cruelly. For the sake of Shinseini's so-called happy life and her own perfect family reputation, she chose to abandon her own flesh and blood without any hesitation. She even left a message for the director. Don't tell her I'm her mother. Let her fend for herself. 30 seconds later, the sixth secret burst out. The reason why I suffered from severe stomach problems in my childhood was not poor physical fitness, but that Aunt Lee deliberately put cold rice and spoiled food in my meals all year round under the Shin family's instruction. They not only deprived me of warm clothes and food, but also deliberately damaged my health, wanting me to grow up weak and sickly so that I would never be able to compete with the healthy and bright Shinseini. Every secret is a bloody scar. Every exposed truth is enough to make people angry. The number of people participating in the evil deeds continues to increase. Shin family parents who are behind the scenes, scheming fake daughter, greedy orphanage staff, derelict teachers, and bullying classmates form a complete closed evil circle. No one in this circle is innocent. Everyone has stepped on my pain and suffered benefits. I continued to collect evidence silently. After school in the afternoon, I took the initiative to find the orphanage director and calmly asked him about the monthly remittance from the Shin family. The director was furious when he heard that, thinking I was a child who overheard random news and scolded me violently, leaking more insider information about the deal between him and the Shin family. All his words were completely recorded by me. I watched this group of people who thought they controlled everything, arrogantly abusing their power and bullying the weak, and knew that their happy days were coming to an end. I don't need to rush to counterattack. The more evil deeds they commit now, the heavier their karma will be in the final public trial. My childhood darkness will eventually become the most powerful weapon to destroy all of them. Objective third-party commentary. This chapter achieves the peak of dense secret explosion, with 6 core hidden sins exposed in a row, each breaking the audience's bottom line of cognition, and the anger value continues to soar. The most shocking part is the blackening setting of the young fake daughter. Breaking the conventional setting of the fake daughter is innocent and ignorant in childhood, the article shapes her as a naturally scheming and selfish villain, making her subsequent robbery and betrayal more reasonable and hateful. The biological mother's deliberate abandonment and intentional harm to her child completely subverts the traditional family affection cognition, thoroughly breaks the audience's expectation of parental love, and makes the female lead's thorough break with her original family completely logical. The continuous expansion of the evil group makes the subsequent public trial not a simple one-on-one revenge, but a comprehensive trial of group evil, which greatly improves the pattern and refreshing sense of the story. Chapter 4 Growth Track Accumulation, Adolescent Betrayal Preview, Female-Led Narrative. Time flies, and I grow up silently in the orphanage with endless accumulation of evidence. In the 10 years from 8 to 18, I never missed any evil deed of the villains. I recorded every frame of their abuse, every transaction record of their bribery, every word of their insult and frame-up. I endured 10 years of cold violence and bullying, but I never gave up growing up. I studied hard with my broken textbooks, memorized knowledge by candlelight at night, and kept my grades far ahead of all students in the school despite the teacher suppression. I know that only by becoming strong enough can I have the capital to counterattack. On my 18th birthday, the Shin family finally came to the orphanage to pick me up. 10 years later, they finally remembered that they had a biological daughter abandoned in the countryside. But their purpose was not to make up for me, but because Shinseini's physical examination found a congenital heart disease, which required a blood relative's bone marrow for transplantation. The 7th core secret exploded. The Shin family took me back just to use my bone marrow to save their beloved fake daughter. They regarded me as a living organ reserve, a tool person who existed only to sacrifice for Shinseini. When I stepped into the luxurious Shin family villa, the cold eyes of my biological parents, the arrogant mockery of Shinsini, and the strange and indifferent atmosphere of the family made me feel icy cold all over. My biological father Shin Jinglin looked at me with disgust. In the future, you will stay at home and take good care of Sinny. Don't go out casually. Don't lose the face of the Shin family. My biological mother Lu Monru frowned and ordered, Sinny has been spoiled by us since childhood. You have to let her in everything, don't quarrel with her, and satisfy all her needs. Shin Sinny leaned in her mother's arms, raised her chin proudly, and looked at me like looking at a servant. Shin Qing, right? From today on, you are my sister, but you have to listen to me. Everything I have is yours to give way. In my previous life, I was naive and humble, trying to please them, trying to get a trace of family affection, and finally was drained of my value and abandoned again. But now, I just smiled faintly, nodded and agreed, and continued to pretend to be humble and obedient. I know that more sins are still going on, and more evidence needs to be accumulated. Half a month after returning to the Shin family, I met Gu Tingzhou, my later fiancé, for the first time at an upper-class banquet. He was tall, handsome, gentle, and polite, took the initiative to talk to me, and showed favor to me. In my previous life, I was moved by this rare gentleness and fell in love with him deeply. But the eighth secret exploded in my mind. Gu Tingzhou's approaching me at the beginning was also a conspiracy. He had long been in contact with Shinsini. The two had an ambiguous relationship early. He approached me just to help Shinsini test my character and to use my identity as the real Shin daughter to obtain the Shin family's business resources. Another half-month later, the ninth secret burst out. Many relatives of the Shin family knew the truth of the baby swap long ago, but they all chose to help cover it up and usually joined in mocking and suppressing me, standing on Shinsini's side to bully me. The evil group expands again, covering family, school, society, and emotional fields, and almost everyone around me has participated in the persecution of me. The audience's anger has reached a peak. Everyone is waiting for the female lead's thorough counterattack and public trial. I quietly looked at the group of hypocritical people in front of me, and the time for the final public trial is getting closer and closer. Objective third-party commentary. This chapter completes the time span transition from childhood to adolescence, and the plot advances from single childhood abuse to multi-dimensional betrayal of family, kinship, and love, with layered and escalating conflicts. The setting of being taken back as an organ reserve completely breaks the bottom line of family affection, making the original family's selfishness and cold-bloodedness reach the extreme, and the audience's emotional anger is completely detonated. The advanced preview of the male lead's cheating conspiracy lays the groundwork for the subsequent double betrayal plot. The male lead's initial approach with a purpose makes his later crematorium repentance extremely ridiculous and worthless, ensuring the rationality of the female lead's zero forgiveness setting. The continuous expansion of the evil group makes the final public trial have a broader sense of justice, from personal revenge to the trial of all evil bystanders and perpetrators, which greatly enhances the depth and grandeur of the story. Chapter 5 Double Betrayal coming. Evidence chain perfectly closed. Female-led narrative. After I returned to the Shin family, I endured all the unfair treatment silently for a year. I gave way to Shinsini in everything. She robbed my clothes, my jewelry, my study opportunities, and even my parents' attention. I never argued or fought back. My obedience and humility made the Shin family and Shinsini completely relax their vigilance against me. They thought I was a rustic, cowardly, and easy-to-control tool person. Gu Tingzhou's pursuit of me became more and more intense. He was gentle and considerate in every way, creating all kinds of romantic surprises for me, and quickly captured my trust in my previous life. Soon, under the deliberate promotion of the Shin family, I officially got engaged to Gu Tingzhou. The Shin family took this opportunity to use my engagement to win more business resources from the Gu family, and their career developed rapidly. But all the glory belongs to Shinsini. She always attends various banquets as the favored young lady of the Shin family, enjoying the envy of everyone. And I, the real young lady, can only stay at home silently, being a tool person who makes sacrifices silently. The 10th secret exploded. After my engagement with Gu Tingzhou, Shinsini and Gu Tingzhou had long-term private dates and intimate transactions. They used my identity and my engagement to obtain benefits, and secretly had an affair behind my back, mocking my stupidity and innocence in private. The 11th secret burst out. My parents knew about the ambiguous relationship between Gu Tingzhou and Shinsini long ago, but they chose to cover it up, just to maintain the cooperative relationship between the two families. They would rather let their biological daughter be wronged and betrayed than affect their family's interests. The 12th secret exploded. The heart disease of Shinsini was completely cured long ago, but they still pretended to be sick, trying to keep me as a permanent organ reserve and emotional tool. Layer after layer of hidden truths are exposed, and every secret is more cruel than the last. On the night of the engagement anniversary, I finally collected the last piece of evidence to close the entire chain. I successfully photographed the intimate photos and videos of Gu Tingzhou and Shinsini's private tryst, recorded the chat records of their long-term affair, and obtained the transfer records of the Shin family's long-term bribery of orphanage staff and teachers. From childhood abuse, adult family oppression, to double betrayal of love and kinship, all evil deeds have complete and irrefutable evidence. The evil group is fully confirmed: selfish parents, scheming fake daughter, cheating ex-fiancé, greedy orphanage staff, derelict teachers, indifferent relatives, and bullying bystanders. All perpetrators have their own evidence of guilt. The audience's anger has accumulated to the extreme, and everyone is waiting for the final public trial moment. I stood on the balcony of the villa, looking at the bright neon lights outside, and the cold smile on my lips finally bloomed completely. The long-term forbearance is over, and the trial of all sinners is coming. Objective third-party commentary. This chapter completes the final closure of the full-text evidence chain, ending the long-term layout of continuous evidence accumulation and laying a solid foundation for the final public trial climax. The successive exposure of multiple betrayal secrets completely collapses the last trace of family affection and love expectations, and the female lead's thorough sobriety is perfectly demonstrated. She no longer has any illusions about family and love, and all her forbearance is for the final thorough counterattack. The villain group's evil nature is completely finalized. Parents sacrifice their daughter for interests. Fake daughter robs identity and love. Ex-fiancé uses feelings for profit. All villains have no bottom line of morality and conscience, making the subsequent collapse and retribution more satisfying. The plot rhythm is steady and powerful, the emotional accumulation is in place, and the climax expectation is pushed to the peak. Chapter 6 Full Network Public Trial. All villains exposed. Female-led narrative. I chose the annual Top Celebrity Charity Banquet as the venue for the public trial. This banquet is attended by all upper-class celebrities, media reporters, and live broadcast platforms of the whole network. It is the most glamorous occasion for the Shin family and Shinsini to show off their glory. They want to stand on the highest stage to enjoy praise. Then I will let them fall from the highest place and